Hello, everybody. Just wanted to reintroduce one of our favorite set of guests here on the Train Your Brain podcast, and that would be John and Laura Grant. And most people know the story. I'm not going to take too much time introducing, but if you haven't seen the story, please go to punch in the hashtag Stay Strong Johnny Grant on Instagram or Facebook. You can also see at Laura B. Pilates, right? Is that it on Instagram? One of the most amazing and inspiring stories, and we've been lucky enough and blessed enough and privileged enough to be a part of this process that John and Laura have been through, along with some other truly amazing health providers and spiritual advisors, et cetera. This has really just been one of the most, in my 20 years of practice, one of the most incredible things to be a part of, and really more so because you all are who you are, and that is just awesome, awesome people. So thank you all for being who you are, and thank you all for coming on. And what we're going to do is I'll talk about the topic, and if you have any just initial thoughts, we'll get into that. But the topic for today is Quarantinehab. We've been calling it Quarantinehab because we're getting all kinds of requests from people as to what do we need to do during this incredible world health crisis, particularly national crisis where everybody's kind of holed up in their homes, not knowing what to do. But this is impacting the TBI, traumatic brain injury world, more than most, at least from where we sit, and I'm sure from where you sit. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But how are you guys doing?
Doing great. So good to see you. John, awesome. Say hi.
Hey, bud. Awesome. So what's going on in Raleigh, North Carolina? How are you guys doing out there?
It is hot outside. Yeah. We have a lot of humidity, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Got to come to the mountains. It's about probably about 15 degrees cooler up here and raining every day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. I went out for a run today and I was like, I don't know. I came inside. My mom had come by and she's like, it looks like you jumped in the pool. I was like, I know. It's so humid
right.
Here.
That's we haven't hit that. We haven't hit that just yet. So now we have, I think last we saw you all was probably face-to-face, person-to-person, I believe was in February. And it's amazing how much time has transpired since then. And, what we're doing is now we're keeping, up with you all, based on posts and all. And I'll tell you, I've seen some pretty amazing things, even in the absence of, quote unquote, professional rehabilitation, training, guidance, et cetera. You all seem to be just pushing the needle regardless of what's happening with this situation or not. I've seen, just talking about that, but John mowing the lawn. I love it, John. That is so cool. Did you mow the lawn today?
No, not today.
No, not today.
All right. Today you rode your bicycle though.
Too human. Good. Did you get the double bicycle?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think with everything it's been delayed, but I cannot wait to get the what is it? The
tandem. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. He got a bicycle for his birthday though. It was a tricycle, like an adult tricycle.
I saw that. That is so cool. So cool. And that's perfect. I mean, just this massive tricycle you would see in the movie Big or something like that, where it provides such a purpose. And, for you all to be doing things like that, even in the midst of this crisis where you can't get out, you can't do things, you're finding newer and newer ways to, keep the brain stimulated, keep the body active. And that's why we're talking about this, because so many people are stuck. And again, I call it Quarantinehab because people have been relegated to doing high-level physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, functional neurology, via distance, via telehealth, via screen. And you can't do this type of rehabilitation for the most part via screen, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you all dabbled? Have you tried doing any telehealth at this point?
No, not really.
Okay.
We kind of stayed away from screens as much as possible.
Good for you.
I try to just incorporate what we have around the house, like we'll talk about,
right.
Just kind of stay on top of things. But I just try to take tidbits outside and just daily living activities as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what happens is most people are falling into the telehealth realm, and the fact is most people that are doing it are calling it quits. They're just saying it's not working, it's not helping, because you can't judge muscle tone through a camera. You can't do all of these different things that clinicians need to do to be able to help people make the progress they need. So they're really being left to their own devices and coming up with some tremendous struggles as a result of that. So when's the last time you've been through any type of organized therapy? Was that in February when you were here?
Right. We have done some like acupuncture, or we've gone to hyperbaric, and but we've really cut back a lot of things. And I think that's one of the biggest messages is, in rehab, sometimes a break is good, but not necessarily not firing the brain and stimulating it, but more of a focused rehab, not feeling like, because I know for myself when this happened, I find myself as a caregiver, I'm like, well, I'm not taking him to this. Is this not going to help him? I think a lot of caregivers feel like they're never doing enough, right? And so then you can't take them to therapies to do things, but actually you'll find sometimes in that stillness and silence and staying focused on, say, the functional exercises you give us, if we stay focused on those of what his brain really needs and focus on that, not feeling like we always have to overstimulate him, then there's a lot of progress that is made in that scenario as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that, because that is something we advise folks all the time is taking a step back. It's this, our brain is constantly being pulled in different directions, particularly in the brain injury world, when you have all these providers you're working with, you have all these groups you're involved with, just advice coming from all angles, and with good intentions, people just want to do. So I think taking that step back to really assess, what seems to be working the best based on past experience, but taking that time to be somewhat mindful, just to listen to what gut instincts tell you, to what your brain is telling you. But super important to take that break. What are the biggest struggles, and you all are past, many of the stages that a lot of the folks we're hearing from are in, but you've been there, where it's very difficult for family members to work with one another for successful rehabilitation, right? We rely on the providers to provide that, because if we get in the way, we often become a target, so to speak. And that's one thing we're hearing from people, is the mother or the father or the sister or the brother, whoever's really helping out most with the rehabilitation, they're now becoming the physical therapist or the speech therapist or the occupational therapist, et cetera. And they're becoming a target, because there's just that family dynamic that is very difficult to get around, at least until you've got to a certain stage. So now therapy is kind of, falling off and going downhill, because there's animosity, there's fights, there's disdain, there's just lack of people wanting to do the activities because they're being told to do it by the people they love. And the dynamics there we could talk hours about. But you, having been through that point, do you have any kind of suggestions or advice or guidance for people that are running into those brick walls right now?
I think finding exercises or therapies that are maybe a little bit more I would say like passive for me, like the lasering or, the Resimax or stuff that doesn't really involve me having to do it, right? I've actually taken, when we did NeuroSage, remember that video that we made for NeuroSage, and I played that for him because I find things that he really connects with that'll give me a second to do something, and he actually connects that really well. He'll sit there and keep his eyes on it, and I put the lasers on him, and I'm able to do other things. So I know that he's getting stimulation correctly, and I might put the Resimaxes on his left arm, so finding those passive things from working with someone like yourself that can give you those specific exercises that doesn't mean that you have to physically do it and be engaged with them has really helped me. So like even say I go out for a run and he sits on his lounge chair, I'll put the lasers on his feet. Yeah. And I'll have those on just blasting his feet, because we know those, just that light therapy penetrating in, it's so helpful.
Absolutely.
So looking for things more on a passive level has really helped me. Even our bed, we have a bed that vibrates, and having him vibrating with the glasses on that blink, I mean, that's still stimulating his brain. Right. And so really focusing on that finding those key elements, but again, having someone like yourself specifically tell us what he needs, because it's like not anybody can just go Google that and find that, find those specific things that they need. That has helped us. But as far as like the interaction at that level where you can't really get them to participate, sometimes what I found is doing it with them. Like say we do some coloring. Well, I'm going to sit down and color with him. So it doesn't feel like it's always about him, or that he's like, he has to be doing this,
Yeah.
Making also allowing him to decide that's what he wants to do. When I open the space up for him to be in control, that would help the dynamic a whole lot.
Right. So 3 things I hear there, lead by example, passive therapies, and then also to, having the buy-in from the individual. Nobody wants to do what they don't want to do. So I think that's where leading by example can all of a sudden allow for, increased engagement with that. So that is perfect. And there are so many passive modalities out there. You've mentioned laser and the ResiMax tool, which many people have seen or heard about these types of things through your pages, our pages. And, we are doing, as well as so many of our great colleagues are doing, more and more distance consultations. We've always done it, but there's naturally been a huge uptick in that over the past 4 or 5 months. And, we're working with people in Europe and Australia, you name it, all over the place. And you can get a lot of these devices shipped to locations outside the US too. So I know people outside the US will see this. There are many, many ways. And even from a cost standpoint, obviously over the years, you've accumulated quite a home gym worth of stuff, including big old bicycles and I would love to have the playground that you all have there, but but it's time, effort, and it's what you put your resources and your focus on, and it happens because that's what you've done. You've focused on it, and you've gotten it because of your constant drive and desire, both of you, to move past and to constantly get better and better. So that's great. Passive therapies, we tell people that all the time, is a way to really unload, step out of the room, and people can listen to the previous episode we did about caregiver self-care. So when the caregiver leaves the room, it's not just, crying, which a lot of people do, or, kind of yelling into a pillow, but getting on the treadmill or going outside, doing something to unload. So equally, people are de-stressing, because if there's that one stressor that remains, the other person will pick up on that, and it'll start, start that repelling again.
And that's a huge topic right there. Finding that rhythm between the two, like myself as a caregiver and my husband, or caring for him. If he can sense when I'm fearful or if I'm stressed, or I'm telling you, joy and laughter and having fun, like there's no better medicine than that. And we really focus on that. Even if it's split second, like if I can tell that he's feeling my energy, I would be like, okay, Laura, step back, and we just do something like kick a soccer ball or something.
Cool.
So I think that's important, to find those little things that make the other person smile, and just kind of engage them, because sometimes that brain will just check out and I'm like, okay, come back.
Right. No, that's great. And that you said that about kicking a soccer ball. I was just about to ask you some examples, because some people are just simply not as apt to be spontaneous, or create those moments of joy in the middle of chaos or stress. So any other things that you would recommend? Shoot Nerf things at each other or something, or you said kicking a ball. What else?
Yeah, and what I want to say with that is, a lot of people think that therapy or any kind of brain rehab has to be so structured sometimes. But doing the little bits here and there, that's kind of more, we do have a routine of what we do every day. I make sure that we do certain things. But we do kicking soccer balls. We might like just dance. We do a lot of singing together. Sometimes if I just feel like the energy is coming up, or he needs to be engaged, we'll just sing a song or we'll go through, like, you remember how you had us go through all the letters?
Right.
And say a word for every letter. Right. We just out of nowhere, I'll engage him with that. Right. So just the things like that. Kicking soccer ball is big time. And we get outside on the porch a lot of times and put on colored lenses and just look outside, just kind of refocus into nature.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. And for people who don't know, we'll go through letters of the alphabet, start at the letter A, and do different categories. But one of the things too to kind of shift the mood to be a little bit more positive is starting with the letter A and naming a positive word for each letter. So A, awesome; B, beautiful; C, cheerful; whatever. It's really hard to be in a bad mood when you're naming these things off. So it'll start to change mood pretty quickly. Awesome, 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 cool. So that said, which is leading to the kind of despair for a lot of people is the isolation socially. My goodness, what started out as a month or two, now we're approaching 6 months of isolation, particularly for folks in your case where you even said, in the bubble, so to speak, because you don't want to risk having to go to the hospital or do something like that if there's a cough or if there's anything. So, what are you doing about aside from the fun factor, what are you doing about the isolation?
That's a tough one. And I know a lot of people are feeling that. Really sticking to a routine a bit, our days go by so fast. I know that we're sleeping probably more than I think everybody's probably getting a little bit more rest than they need to, or, well, are used to. For the isolation, I just really, I haven't been the best about that because we do need to get out and around people more. Just getting out, walking our dog around the block, getting outside onto the deck. We're about to landscape our backyard, which I'm really excited, so we can actually get outside a whole lot more.
Good.
But isolation, I think that's a tough one because, we get so much with engaging with other people. Right. So I know a lot of people struggle with that. Yeah.
And people have been relying on things like this, Zoom, but we know clearly certain neurochemicals and hormones are not released with this type of thing.
Right.
When we see you guys, it's a whole different ballgame than talking this way because, oxytocin release and all these different things that, kind of bind people together and allow them to grow in many different ways is just not happening. So, I'm personally not, aside from doing webinars and things like that, I'm not a Zoom fan. I'm not Zooming my family. I'm just doing the regular old phone call because it's kind of the same thing. And everybody has their different level of coping. So I'm not saying don't Zoom if that's what you're comfortable with. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge right now is how people get that social connection, because that's such a big part of that healing equation. And not just healing from things like traumatic brain injury, but things we were kind of talking about before, kind of world healing and nation healing and all of that. Yeah.
Yes. I know. I think that we just, it's a really tough one. And I think it just goes back to the positivity and keeping our vibration high and just realizing that this is not going to be forever and that, we're going to all one day reconnect.
Right.
And, but it's a challenging one especially for those that don't have many people around. But
right.
Just getting outside, I think, even if it's on your front porch or back, just getting out of the house and, getting dressed and getting going and doing things. I know for myself, if I find myself really kind of not just getting down, I'm like, okay, I need to go for a run. I need to do something to get myself going. Right. Even if it's like running up and down your stairs or something, just get your blood pumping.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, the basics too, get up, take a shower, get dressed, make your bed, all of these things you would do hopefully before you go to work or do whatever it is you were doing anyway, because that neurologically leads you into the daily routines. So, that's great advice. Awesome. So what have you run into any specific challenges? Again, I know you all have been at this for some time and have kind of mastered the home rehabilitation, so to speak. I mean, I tell people all the time, you're a far more experienced clinician than so many clinicians I know, but that's, of course, by complete circumstance. And we appreciate you all because of how you are able to motivate others. But what are the big challenges you've run into with this particular situation over the past 5-6 months in terms of home rehab, if you cared to share?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, just everything going on, it's the weight of the world and just feeling it energetically that it gets me down. And then it's like, I don't want to do anything. And, the next, he's not going to do anything. So really just staying in that positivity, finding, I find myself, I don't even get on social media or whatnot because it's so negative. So I know that for many, it's you're getting pulled in every direction with fear, right, and trying to stay in the positive. So I've gone through swings for myself of negative, negative, negative everywhere I look, and having to pull myself out of that. So I think for those that are caregivers, you're already having to pull yourself up positively with what you're having to deal with because you're dealing with somebody else. That just being aware of when you're being kind of pulled down more and more and stepping away from that,
Right. Absolutely.
And
And I
being
think
conscious of it, being conscious of it. I mean, we could get into it, but realizing that everything in life has frequencies, and like sometimes listening to the news is not the best thing to do.
Right.
I mean,
right.
that frequency of that negative and fearful is not going to help anyone.
Yeah. And even if people aren't actively engaging in the negativity, what happens is sometimes far more, damaging, if you will, neurologically, or things that will perpetuate fear and worry, or even just reading comments on a negative thread. People get pulled into the comments. They even have memes for that. People, eating the popcorn, just waiting to see what happens next. But that is incredibly damaging. It really is. And there's, and we know there's nothing we can do about any of this stuff that people are arguing about. But I really feel one of our biggest, bits of advice, as simple as it sounds, it's the most difficult, is getting people to really retract from social media use at this point, particularly going into a very kind of heated election season. And it doesn't matter what side of the fence anybody is on, the hostility and everything is growing tremendously, the uncertainty, the fear, the worry. The most damaging emotions neurologically are being activated every single day, multiple times per day. So if people can really back off on the technology, I think, a lot of the problems would kind of, get themselves a bit further away. But naturally, with more time on our hands, we're doing more of that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Good deal.
That's kind of, what do you think, honey?
What do you got? What's your favorite part of being home, John?
Why do you like to be home?
Anything.
You like
Anything?
to do anything.
Is
Anything with me and who? And who?
Goo and him. And me and you.
Me and you.
And Kaya.
And Kaya.
Yes, that's it. Kaya, how is Kaya?
Oh, she's amazing. I gotta say, having a pet, especially in this time, is amazing. He interacts with her more than ever before.
Right.
So as a caregiver, if you don't have a pet in some way, it's nice. I know that for him, interaction with her has really helped.
Yeah, it's that is such a big point. I'm glad we just had that little conversation, because yes, more and more people we're seeing are getting, quote unquote therapy dogs, but pets, particularly. I tend to favor dogs, so I will do that. But there's something about dogs, and they're just very perceptive. They understand. They know when enough is enough. They know, when people are not feeling so good. So there's so much good that can come from that. And I know people will, kind of fight about expenses and responsibilities and everything around an animal. But you don't always have to get a puppy. I highly recommend not getting a puppy, because yes, that will be stressful and probably not something that will make your life a lot easier in the short term. But there are plenty of animals that can be rescued, and you can learn about the temperaments of the animal from the shelters that they're in. So yes, the animals by far, and they can unload the caregiver as well to dissipate some of the stress there. So awesome. I
think anything that, for us, because we're into our backyard, I'm going to really work on finding a place for him to garden, or just finding tasks that, makes them feel like they have something to do. Like he feeds Kaya, he takes Kaya out. That's his responsibility.
Excellent. Yeah, good. Who wouldn't? That's awesome. Yeah, I think so. What I'm hearing through a lot of this is really just kind of getting back to basics. Really, it's not necessarily about the high level neurological rehabilitation protocols, et cetera. It's really get outside, get some sunlight, your daily routine, using passive modalities to help decrease the stressors, do what brings you joy, do it often, eliminating the negative things. So it's things we should be doing anyway. We just need to do them now more than ever. To the point about going outside, yes, I mean, you can take all the vitamin D supplements you want in the world, but if you're not getting out in the sun, there's going to be challenges. It impacts our sleep-wake cycles. It impacts our stress responses. It impacts so many different things. So it's amazing to me that people have more free time and they're spending less time outdoors. It's kind of counterintuitive. You figure people would be doing more. And I understand there's safety factors, but at least in regions like ours, it's very easy to get outdoors, even if it's your own backyard and you're in a bigger city. There's ways to do it. There's ways to do it. So what kind of thoughts do you have? Do you have anything in particular around this topic or anything related to it?
I just know for a caregiver, it's tough. And I just say, hang in there. We're going to get through this. And sometimes having to step away from everything is not always a bad thing. So I know that I find myself questioning, oh my gosh, I'm not taking him to this. I'm not doing this, but it's going to be okay on the other side of it. Right. Okay. And that, just hang in there.
Right. Can I ask your thoughts too on, this is a big one. People ask us all the time, should I join this group or that group? Facebook is good for many things. And there's a lot of support groups out there now. And it's not that all are bad, all are good. There's good and bad in everything. But, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know more and more people are relying on support groups to get advice because they can't see their practitioners. They can't see their functional neurologists or whoever. So they're relying on support groups to more and more. I'm seeing it that they're getting extreme amounts of advice in these groups. And that's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts to that end?
Gosh, I think it's just, you've got to go with your intuition.
Yeah.
If it feels like it's too much, right, then just step away and put it to the side. Everyone's going to have advice about something. Right. Everyone wants to help, and right, that everyone has the right intention, oh my gosh, not intuition, intention to help, yes, but it doesn't mean that right then and right there, that is what you need. So, right, I've always said I have a folder that I put things in, like if I need it at some point, I can go there, like if it right, feels like the right time for it. So as a caregiver, just be open and what feels like it fits with you. Like, don't put more stress on yourself and feel right, like you have to do what everyone else is doing, because what everyone else is doing is not always what you need. Right. So, but it is nice throwing things back and forth and having that feeling of helping someone else. I get a lot of joy out of that. So,
excellent. And you do tremendously. And we certainly steer people towards resources like yours because of the positivity factor and the proactive and the, always doing better, striving to be better, understanding there's challenges and pitfalls, but really how to overcome them. I think maybe more towards my question or thought was, we see a lot of folks, because we deal a lot with the crossover between things like brain injury and addiction. And we're seeing just addiction and suicide rates skyrocketing right now. And obvious reason, and this is probably going to continue as such. So we're seeing a lot of people kind of bearing their souls in these online forums, and I guess we're seeing some inherent dangers there. So would probably caution people to work within your circles of influence. Get with counselors, licensed professional counselors, even certain hotlines that are available. As opposed to just kind of putting it all out there for the world to dissect, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And try to find someone that you can connect with. And journaling is amazing.
Absolutely.
Not always focusing on the technology aspect, because we've got to remember technology, there's a lot of screen things coming at us. There's a lot of that's hitting our brain, right? We could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
But, maybe stepping away from technology and just sitting with yourself during this time. Right. And finding more, get outside and start journaling.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we recommend that all the time, and we're always giving people little journals to write in because it's such a great brain exercise for sure.
Right. Yeah. And there are a lot of people out there. There's a lot of good supports, and I think know that you're not alone.
Right.
But it's tough for people. I can't imagine some people that are just really, really struggling with that. I'd say just have accountability partner, find someone that you trust and have that person there that, if you feel really down or that you're at kind of wit's end, just reach out.
Right. Absolutely.
And then also check in with people. I find myself, I'm not as much on my phone, but sometimes it's nice to check in with people. If that person pops in your head, maybe you need to check in with them. Right. So take that kind of, just check in with people, because I think a lot of people need other people at this point, even if it is, remotely.
Right. Awesome. So just to kind of shift gears and, kind of close up on some thoughts about how people can really, up the ante on their home, their quarantine hab, so to speak, for now until they can get back to their normal routine, whatever that looks like. How do you, and I know you all do such a tremendous job, and I wish we could kind of bottle up how you do this and give it to everybody, but how do you keep things novel? We talk about, people are, I think we were talking about this before. Is that Kaya?
Yeah.
Is that,
Hiya.
she's letting in?
No.
Oh, I thought you were letting her in. I was going to say, hey.
Yeah.
So, there's tremendous right brain activation from new things, right? And now people are kind of holed up in their homes and, their tiny apartments, and they're not getting this novel stimulation on a regular basis, even by just going out and driving and going into stores and doing whatever. So the right brain is really suffering as a result of this entire, quarantine pandemic thing going on here. So novelty, new things, the brain thrives on it. Fun, exciting, engaging. How do you keep things novel? I know through your prior vocation, career, what you did, it was always about learning new ways to do things. So it's kind of embedded or ingrained into you. But do you have resources you go to learn new exercises or ways to mix things up, or what do you do?
I just am spontaneous.
Yeah.
I just try to be spontaneous. And where are you going?
Letting Kaya in.
I just try to be spontaneous and like say I'm doing something with them and I think of something else. I'm like, oh, let's just try it this way. So I'm just trying to always, not do the same thing and fall into that repetitive,
Right.
Motion of things. And also giving him the space to be spontaneous and for him to be creative.
Yeah.
I think that's huge as well. But as far as going and looking for things, gosh. Hi,
I don't mean to put you on the spot there. I know some people just naturally have that ability, and others really struggle with it. They really do. Yeah.
It is challenging. I think just open your gut, just connect with yourself, especially in this time that you don't have so much outside things to do. I think this is the time for everyone to just slow down and check in and be present.
Yeah. And I think even too, writing, for those that aren't super spontaneous, when you're on the spot and frustrations are coming in and you can't figure out what to do, that's not the time to decide how to be spontaneous, because it's just going to lead to further frustration. So I think, what can be done is, writing things down, just thinking about ideas when your mind is relaxed and you don't have to worry about it. Write those ideas down and then implement them as you get into the routine, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
It's usually imagination, I guess. We all don't, we're so logical and this and this and this. Just try to tap back into that imagination again.
Right. And I think too, I'm going through this right now. My oldest daughter is much more kind of left brain like me, and it's just orderly and detail oriented, and difficult to be spontaneous. But she's just got engaged in theater a couple of years back, and this is really helping with that. My point with that is what they're doing is they're offering a lot of online improv classes and things like that. So there's so many things to do. People can do online classes for free to learn how to be more spontaneous. So I think there are resources out there people can tap into. I don't have any direct links at this point, but just, look it up online somewhere. I'm sure that you can find it.
And there are some great apps, that I've Googled for him, just even if they're not too challenging, just like spelling and stuff. And he just loves them. They're just like basic, even if, and I've done a lot of ordering workbooks off Amazon.
Right.
That he's just nailing through workbooks, and
Yeah.
kind of things like that. Just
very cool. Yeah, there are even getting into just tried and true games, I Spy, things like that. We had a family doing that in the office today, and then they were doing all these cool other games where they would take two things and take one part of the word from one thing, one part of the word from the other. They'd put it together to see if the other person could figure out what two things they were talking about. So it was a pretty cool thing. So there's so many things you can certainly do, but you can always go back to I Spy, right? That's the the tried and true. That's the one I remember. All right. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you all so much.
Yeah.
Always super helpful, and really can't say enough about how much you all positively influence people in their journey. Whether it's something that just happened, or whether people have been at it 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You all just continue to inspire because of that positivity, that fun, the joy, everything you bring to it. So can't say enough. You all have helped so many people that you have no idea that you've helped. So thank you.
Thank you. We're so appreciative of you and all your help of just these tools that we have, to do
Right.
being at home. So we got to go back and see him, right?
Got to get out here, make a trip, come to the mountains. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. See you, John. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. But you all have an awesome weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you person to person real soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. See y'all.
Bye.